Good afternoon. So, if you ask me from the very start, what would be probably, in my opinion, the number one tropical tree to plant in the Central Valley, I would have to give you the Atemoya and the Cherimoya as being the answer. So, both of these trees, the Cherimoya essentially really is the original of the Annona, whereas the Atemoya is a hybrid between a Cherimoya and a sugar apple tree. In terms of taste, I really can't tell them apart, though. In my opinion, I think the Cherimoya is a bit sweeter than the Atemoya. But again, I mean, you're talking both neck and neck. So the reason why I would say an Atemoya or a Cherimoya really comes down to the fact that the two trees perform insanely great in the Central Valley's heat and, more importantly, the cold. Although there's a lot of conflicting information about the Cherimoya in the survivability of the frost. I mean, if you look it up, they're saying that anything below 20, anything below 30 for a couple of hours, a mature tree might suffer some dieback. That really hasn't been my case at all. And also, if you look up the Atemoya too, you'll see a lot of online sources saying that they are technically a bit more cold-hardier than the Cherimoya. That, again, too, hasn't been my experience. My experience has been the complete opposite, where the Cherimoyas are slightly harder than the Atemoya, but they still both, do great in the Central Valley. To date, I have yet to have a Cherimoya or Atemoya die because of the cold or the frost. So I wanted to kind of give you a tour of what we've got here, and also how my Atemoyas and Cherimoyas perform in the harshness of the Central Valley. So here we've got an Atemoya. Oh, and I should just reference really quick. So really the difference is visually you could tell them apart. Cherimoyas, the fruits generally are a bit more scaly, very smooth, whereas the Atemoyas are a bit bumpier. If you look at it, I mean, this obviously is an Atemoya. If you look at the bumpiness of the fruits, these fruits, depending on the variety, I mean, these things can get massive. You're talking 3, 4, 5 pounds. So this guy is, I want to say this tree is going about 5 years old now. This is an Atemoya of unknown variety. I'm pretty positive this is likely a Gaffner. So the cool thing about the Annonas, which are the family of the Atemoya and Cherimoyas, is the fact that in the Central Valley they practically do really fruit year round. If you look at the flowers there, I mean, we're approaching December, and this tree still has a number of flowers. I mean, this is insane. So one tip on a couple pointers concerning I guess this would be the cons of the Annonas is in the Central Valley. You're going to want to hand pollinate these trees, the flowers, just because in the wild, you've got to think, in the wild, the native land where the Cherimoyas originate from, or in the South America Andes mountain region, which translates to being slightly cool, very comparable to the Central Valley during the wintertime, and more importantly, it is extremely humid there, which is why they essentially are self-pollinating over there, but not here. I mean, our humidity is next to nothing at all. So what happens is, in the wild, as the flowers open up, the first stage is a female, and then the next day it opens up further and becomes a male. In the wild, what happens is, because of the humidity, it actually the pollens get stuck to the flower from the transition of the female to the male part. That basically induces self-pollination. But again, over here in the Central Valley, and likely almost probably everywhere else in the United States, maybe except Florida, you're probably going to want to hand pollinate. I had nearly 100% success rate with hand pollination. So with hand pollination, generally the more pollens that you've applied to the female flowers, the larger the fruit, and also the more seeds that that particular fruit will produce. But in my opinion, that's really not an issue. So this year, I took the approach of not pollinating every single flower that I see, but instead rather focusing on taking care of the fruits that have pollinated. I'm wanting the fruits that have set to be a good size, as opposed to having lots and lots of quantities here and there. So as with many Anonas, the branches structurally, they need a lot of support. I mean, imagine like a 5-pound fruit on a branch. I mean, this guy is going to break. I mean, this little branch, it just has 2 fruits, and it's like, about a foot off from the ground. So structurally, yeah, these trees need a lot of support. In fact, if you come closer here, this is what I've had to do in order to provide some structural support to the tree itself. The pergola is about 12 foot tall. The tree is reaching about 12 feet. So that's in the Central Valley. You really want to keep the size maintained, just because otherwise it'd be a bit difficult to try to hand pollinate these guys. So yeah, it's if you look at down here, it's again, without the structural support, I don't think this branch will be able to support all this fruit. It's probably going to just break. But yeah, I've got another one over here actually. Let me see if I can get in here. See if you can see it from that angle as well. But this is also another, very likely a Gaffner Atemoya. Yeah, this one actually went through quite a bit during the construction of the pergola above us. One of the beams actually fell and nearly split this tree in half, but it made a very respectable comeback, obviously. So, wanted to show you though. So that was an Atemoya. So I'm so pleased with the results of the Atemoya and the Cherimoyas that I actually just went all out on them. Let me show you what I mean by that. So the Anonas, Atemoyas and Cherimoyas, they grow at a respectable rate. It's not going to be an Inga or Moringa or Mulberry. They do grow at a decent medium rate. So here we've got a Lisa Atemoya. The cool thing about the Lisa is that the skin is a bit pinkish towards the red side, so it just looks cool. But in terms of taste, and also just one note, between the various varieties of the Anonas, the Atemoyas and the Cherimoyas, there's really not a whole lot in differences in terms of taste. The varieties really have to do with the size of the fruit, the color of the fruit, the amount of seeds that fruit may produce. But in terms of taste, I can't tell the difference. In fact, concerning the taste, if you look up Google or Bing, if that's your search engine, look up the top 10 most tastier fruits. Cherimoya / Atemoya is going to be on the list. It is just really, really tasty. So again, Lisa Atemoya. This guy is an Orton Cherimoya. Here we have a Gaffner Atemoya. Awesome looking trees here. So speaking of the Atemoya, which again is a cross between a Cherimoya and a sugar apple. This is what a sugar apple tree looks like. Nestled back here. Actually, I have 2 of them. One is, I don't know if you can see him, but it'd be this guy back here, this beady guy back here. One is a red sugar apple, that's the compound mauve, and then the other one is traditional green sugar apple. So you combine that with a Cherimoya, you get an Atemoya. The sugar apples are a bit cold sensitive. That's why I've got them back there. Moving on to the forest of Cheromoyas here. I mean, I'm telling you, it's the Cheromoyas, just because they perform so well. I've got a bunch of them. In this little section here, this is probably, I say maybe 10 by 3 foot section. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 Cheromoyan trees in here. If you look at how the growth structures are, they're very branchy. So space really is not an issue. I mean, the branches well intertwine with each other. And again, I mean, 7 Atemoya trees, Cherimoya trees right here in this section. This one is it's marketed as a Vietnamese Cherimoya. Probably a new marketing term. From what I've gathered, it's very likely sourced from a Dr. White Cherimoya, but seems to do well here. Vietnamese. I got another Vietnamese Cherimoya here. I mean, massive leaves. I mean, it's these guys love to photosynthesize. Vietnamese. Right here is a Fino de Hete. Special thanks to the folks in Spain for developing this particular variety. The cool thing with Fino de Hete is the fact that the seeds are very minimal. And right in front of it, again, emphasis on structural support, is a Booth Cherimoya. And right behind it, this little beady guy here is a Dr. White. And also right to its left is an El Bampo. Again, being that all of these are grafted plants, the first thing they want to do obviously is flower. And yeah, in my opinion, these trees aren't yet able to sustain fruits. So I've just been plucking out the flowers just as a follow-up to my previous videos about preparing it. When you take out the flowers and the fruits, more energy gets transferred back to the tree for root establishment. I've got one special guy that I'd like to show you back here. It is a very special Atemoya. This guy right here, a red Israel Atamoya. Can you guess the country where this particular Atemoya was developed? Yes, it is in Israel. Nice thing about the red Israel, like the name implies, reddish in color. Also another cool thing about the red Israel, it is completely self-pollinating. You do not need to pollinate a red Israel Atamoya. So that's a cool thing about this guy. So I will now take you to the front where I've got a few more examples to show you. Here's the front. So I've got a couple of Cheromoyas here in the front yard, which basically gets the brunt of the full sun. Both of these were grown from seed. Not sure of a variety, but it is a Cheromoya. Let me see if I can get in here. Well, maybe not. I'll just show it from this angle right here. Yeah, these are, if you look at the size, I mean, you would think this would be, you know, a mature tree, but they're actually not that old. You're talking maybe 3 to 4 years old. So in a while, these trees do get relatively large. You're talking about 30 feet or so. Not in Central Valley. Our climate really keeps these trees to a respectable size, which again is what you want because you're going to have to hand pollinate. Yeah, massive leaves on these guys. I mean, I'm so impressed with these. Yeah, this is really, and in fact, driving around different parts of Central Valley, I actually do see quite a number of houses. I've seen 3 or 4 houses with Cherimoya trees in the yard. I mean, they've got a very distinctive look to the leaves. So, Cherimoya, another Cherimoya, planted the same time as this one. It's also getting to be a very good size. Yeah, they do really, really well here in the Central Valley. Oh, here's a quick update to the mango video that we did, that I planted last time. I'm doing awesome here. Loving the climate, I suppose. So one cool thing about the Cherimoyas and the Atemoyas, most of the time they are propagated from seeds, although depending on the special varieties that you want, they are going to be grafted. But the cool thing with the Cherimoyas is the time that it takes you to grow from seed to the time that it starts giving fruit to you, you're talking just about 3 years. Let me show you. Here we have a volunteer. It is about a year and a half old. It's a volunteer Cherimoya. We ate the Cherimoya, toss it in the ground to be mulch, and hey, here comes a Cherimoya. I'm saving this guy because I'm going to be eventually grafting a red cherry apple onto it. So I think it'd be a pretty cool project. Yeah, Cherimoyas are, the rootstocks are just very, very versatile. And in fact, let me show you how easy they are to germinate from seed. I mean, my tree is, I mean, I've had, I mean, I don't keep track of it, but there seems to be a lot of volunteers growing as a result of me eating and tossing seeds down here. Let me see if I can get these out of the way. All right. I'm just going to sit here and show you. See all these volunteers right here? I mean, this is all seedling volunteers from Cherimoyas. Again, they really grow quite easily. Very, very versatile trees. And also among the most delicious. The only downside, again, is the hand pollination, which to me is not a bad thing, just because anytime I pollinate a fruit tree, it also allows me to kind of keep an eye on the tree also, just to look at the overall health of it. Concerning speaking of the health of the tree, none of my Cherimoyas and Atemoyas have had any significant pest issues on them. I mean, some of my trees have aphids, your typical pests, aphids, scale bugs, not the Anonas, not the Cherimoyas or Atemoyas. I mean, bugs seem to not like them. So, yeah, there's just a lot going for growing Anonas in the Central Valley. I mean, we have a very unique climate which allows them to thrive. So I know there's a number of folks down in Florida that, just from reading the online threads, they seem to have difficulties growing them, which doesn't make sense to me. The trees love humidity. They need humidity, but for some reason they can't grow them there. But us, luckily in the Central Valley, no problem at all. So anyhow, just wanted to, let you know, if you want to start a fruit forest, I would recommend a Cherimoya and Atemoya just because they do so well here. In fact, some of the trees back there that I've planted, I don't even go to the trouble of mending the soil. I mean, I just take it out from the pot, put it in the ground, and it seems to do great. I mean, they are very tolerant of our soil, or clay soil. So anyhow, all right, have a good afternoon.